I'm Gab, he's Jules, blue skies over West London. Jules, not going to lie about this show. This is that time, the March break, where basically nothing has happened since the last match day until the international start, most of them starting this evening. We did have the Women's Champions League. We'll be getting to that.
Absolutely.
This is where we hope to bring you stuff which we think is interesting, which we think is different, which we think is relevant. Look, was I hoping that, I don't know, Ange Postecoglou or somebody will get sacked and we just talk about that?
I know you were.
Or not because it's Ange, or Sergio Conceição or somebody.
Yeah.
So we could have that at the top? No. So we are grasping for the first segment, but bear with us. I am still expectorating Marinaki style, but I will try to avoid spitting on the floor, as I customarily do in my own home, like Mr. Marinakis. We're going to talk Thomas Tuchel at the top. And the reason...
that's the most interesting story, right? Before games are being played about this international break.
It is interesting. It is interesting because, well, obviously we covered it when he was appointed. There's a simple fact that there's the element that they appointed, not just a foreigner, but a German. Yeah. And if you live in England, constantly 2 world wars, 1 World Cup, it's like they have this obsession with Germany.
Yeah.
Now, it's fair to say most European countries see Germany as their big footballing rival. I know we do in Italy. But of course, that's because we've won 4 World Cups, which of course England has not. England, I believe, have won 1 more than Albania, who they play on Friday night.
That's right.
So there's that element. Tuchel's kind of been on his best behavior. He's been criticized by some for kind of living in Germany, commuting back and forth, not watching as many games as others would like him to watch. So tell us about when he opened things up for his first squad. He was kind of all touchy-feely, lovely.
Yeah, but he's a very charming guy anyway. We saw that when he was at Chelsea before in this country, but even when he was in France or in Germany before that. So he was always going to say the right things, which I think he did in his press conference. One thing that people seem to love is about the national anthem, because he said like he would only start singing it when he earned the right of singing it, which doesn't make any sense.
Which is never.
He will never sing
Nor
it. We can say that to. We're pretty sure that he would never sing it, which is fine. You know, Thierry Henry didn't sing the Belgium anthem when he was the assistant coach to Roberto Martinez, who himself didn't sing the national anthem because he was not Belgian. So there's nothing wrong about not singing the anthem of a country that is not yours. It'd probably be weird if it was the other way around. So,
and by the way, this is one of the few places in the world where they would actually make a big deal.
Absolutely.
This is so stupid.
Absolutely. But I feel that he went to watch enough games, certainly since January the 1st when he officially took over. It was an interesting squad that he named, to say the least, with Dan Burn, for example, who's 32, who probably thought this day would never come, but yet he could potentially be an England international.
Right. What's the logic there? Dan Burn can do a job for me in the World Cup. He's not going to be, so and since my contract is until then, right, I'm just going to focus on that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Dan Burn will start anyway, so he'll be a backup to whoever starts, I guess. I'm not sure. I think there was a few injuries. It would have been interesting to see if Harry Maguire, for example, would have been called up by Thomas Tuchel or not, and if Burn would have made the squad like Kyle Walker, if Alexander-Arnold had been fit, which is not the case. So Burn might be there this month, but might not be there in June when Tuchel has his second international break to navigate. But Jordan Henderson coming back is probably the biggest talking point, because really he doesn't deserve to be there.
I knew you were going to go there. You're going to diss the serial winner. And I'm sorry, if you see me craning, it's because somebody put something in front of my clock, so I can't see how much time I've left in this segment. But I do think, look, the overall message, though, Jules, is this is a short-term appointment. England have a team to win now. It's pretty obvious. They reached 2 European finals, came close, went deep into the World Cup in between. From that perspective, there's no issue in appointing the best possible coach that you can get, regardless if he's German. Yeah,
absolutely. He's the guy that can win you the World Cup, can take this team further up and forward more than Southgate did. He's a better tactician. He's, I think, even better some part of my management. So I think it's a very, very smart appointment if Tuchel can adapt to international football, which is obviously very different to club football.
It's one of the interesting points you made there is the man management side. Like I said, he was all touchy-feely. That is something, that media relations, something Southgate excelled at.
Yeah.
Southgate was a very good person. possibly a better person than Thomas Tuchel, I would imagine, just because it's St. Gareth, right? Jules, as I mentioned, he's replacing somebody in Gareth Southgate who literally did not put a foot wrong at all off the pitch in relationships with fans, with players, with the media.
Yeah.
Navigated also some pretty difficult issues. And I think, whatever else we think of Southgate overall, I've said this a million times, I think as a person and the way he behaved, there's nothing negative you can say about him, which has not been the case about previous England managers, or indeed this England manager, because he's human. Thomas Tuchel is human. He doesn't always look human. He looks like a giant spider sometimes, or like a praying mantis, but he's human, right? What he is, though, he's a very good, he's very much an innovator. When he started out, he called himself the rule breaker and everything. Yeah. He's always open to new ideas. Now, the thing about football is a lot of things have been invented already. And I love it because there are PR people and comms people at the FA whose job it is to sell us basically old ideas as new ideas. So they made such a big deal about how for his first training camp, I guess it was at some Hilton hotel somewhere.
No, St. George's Park. They've got like a HQ.
It's a Hilton.
Well, yeah, inside,
whatever it is, right? Inside the hotel, they rejiggered the whole hotel, supposedly to mimic what a hotel feels like, or what a base camp feels like during a major tournament. And they made such a big deal about, oh, here's a chill out zone. Here's a zone where players can casually mingle while having juice. And so they moved all the furniture around. And then also they made a big deal out of the fact that he really emphasizes physical contact between players. He mentions they got this idea from the NBA about the number of times that the players high five each other. We saw them do a drill with is it Anthony Barry's assistant or some other dude? Where they're doing some form of rondo, keepy uppy type thing, but they're all holding hands while doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I were in my Dave Brailsford hat, I would say these are all marginal gains, apart from the fact that they could be spreading disease unless they use their hand sanitizer before. But whatever. In reality, the goal is a noble one. Does this make much difference, or?
I don't know if it makes any difference, but it's just different. So it's good. Nicolas Maya, who's this like kind of head of performance, if you want, a director of performance that he had with him in Paris and in Munich. A lot of things like that. I think it's important for team bonding, things like that, especially when you've just arrived. It's new. Tuchel said to them, listen, we will have 60 days together before the World Cup, 24 training sessions. So we have to make the most of them because there are not that many. And that's why we said at the end of the first segment, the TV segment on the show, is like Tuchel will also have, and his team will also have to adapt to international football, which is very different. You don't see the players every day, and they might be okay, they might not. Usually it's not that difficult. We see with Nagelsmann, Spalletti, Deschamps. There's a lot of them who went from club level to international level and didn't do too bad, to be fair. So it should be fine. But I like the fact that they just try to change things, do things a little bit differently in the environment, on the training page, and see, I guess, where that leads them.
The 24 training sessions is really, really big. And I cannot emphasize this enough. And I'm glad Tuchel said it, and he's right. It is a very, very different job. 24 training sessions is nothing. When you assume that, of your projected starters, it's entirely likely that, probably a bunch of them will miss one or more international breaks, so that number of training sessions goes down. So you have to work efficiently. You probably can't do stuff that's too complicated or too different from what these people already do at their club sides, because, you can't teach it that quickly. It really is a challenge. And it's right. I've had this debate with several people about who say, like, well, the level of international football, like the coaches are all worse than at club level, right? There's somebody I know and I respect a lot who says this all the time. And while it's true that there's more money in the club game, and that you normally either get people who want the experience of being a national team manager and then go back to the club game, and you get a lot of these like FA types and stuff who move up. I don't know if it's just worse or it's just different because they don't have the same opportunity at squad building. And that's something that Tuchel's going to have to do in double quick time. And I suspect that's also why, we touched upon it before, bringing the people in. Jordan Henderson, Dan Burn, we're not talking about building a cycle for the future. We're talking about eyes on the prize, 2026. So we're okay with the older players. All of them, including Jordan Henderson?
No. I mean, I would not have taken him. I can understand why you took him for the leadership and etc. I think there's others who could be leaders, and you don't need Jordan Henderson in there. And certainly, if the World Cup was this summer, okay, maybe you could make a case. For another 18 months before the World Cup, like I don't think he would be at the World Cup. So why are you taking him now? I guess just because you need him for this, especially this first international break, to make things a bit easier and life easier for you if you're Tuchel. But really,
well, Tuchel has never worked with him, right? So he can look at his CV, he can judge what he sees on television, he can get the feedback that he gets from the guys at Ajax and stuff. It's okay to go and talk to him. I do agree with you in defensive midfield. There probably are better options. Although, come to think of it, I was scratching my head. In that role, who projects better? And who am I forgetting who's better in that role than Jordan Henderson?
I mean, even Adam Wharton, who's not in this squad, is better than Jordan Henderson. Jordan Henderson cannot play for England anymore. He's not good enough. Certainly at the World Cup against Albania and Latvia, of course he can.
Adam Morton is very young and he's been injured
but he's still
for a
better
long
player.
time.
Yeah. So if you want him for the leadership, and he can play 10 minutes, 15 minutes. He cannot start for England in a World Cup in 18 months' time at his age, and considering the guy is not even a starter for Ajax. So you can look at every angle that you want outside of the leadership, especially off the pitch, and what he can do for this squad with a new staff behind it. No problem, not for more than that. So on the pitch, I don't expect him to start on Friday or on Monday, or even less at the World Cup next year.
So this is your way of saying we don't need to talk about Jordan Henderson anymore.
No, we can talk about him.
No, it's fine. I don't think there's much more to say, but this is not that interesting a subject to me. What I am interested in is when we look at, England have a really, really deep squad. We said it before the Euros. They have so many players, so many young players. It's a testament, I think, to the work that the academy system's done, that the FA has done over the years. Some of what I consider to be certainties maybe aren't as certain anymore. Like, not that long ago, I would have said, I slammed Southgate for his use of Phil Foden, for example, in the past. I said, why is this guy playing? If you're playing right now, I don't know that Phil Foden would be an automatic choice with the kind of season he's having, but he was player of the year last year. So there are areas. I still feel that kind of wingers, attacking midfielders, England are pretty stacked. Fullbacks, I think they're fine. Goalkeepers, you can't conjure them out of nowhere, so there'll be a big Pickford thing until maybe he decides, I don't know if he likes Pope or whoever else there is. Center backs is an issue, right?
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I think Gahey and Colwill could be very good together, for example.
And Colwill, another one's not having a great season. Like, there's a great player in there, but not having a great
Chelsea.
season.
Yeah, I know, but it's not that bad.
This season, Colwill.
The season is not that bad from I think Chelsea's point of view and his point of view too. And I think if he's in the squad, it's because Tuchel likes him as well.
All right. Come on, hey, of course, yeah. Of course, he's in the squad because he rates him. And what I'm projecting forward is Levi Colwill. It's the same thing with Foden, right? These are very, very good players who've shown in the past they can be really, really good, but they're not having good seasons. So what I'm driving at is Tuchel needs to think about, what will they be like? Can I turn them around? What can I better learn about them, about the seasons that they're having? I would throw Ollie Watkins in there too. Ollie Watkins not on the level he was at last year, but there's a player in there. And that's what I want to emphasize is part of his job. The World Cup is coming around in 18 months, right? There's not a lot of time here.
Yeah.
So casting a wide net, understanding the players, understanding what players are going to be back to their levels in 2026. And the other thing is, it's not going to depend on him. It's going to depend on their club managers, right? Because if Colwill continues to have the kind of season he's having this season, and your boy Wesley Fofana proves his fitness and finally moves back into central defense where he belongs, and I don't know, one of Chelsea's other 10, Tosin becomes phenomenal, or Benoit Badiashile, or whoever, and any one of these guys, and something happens with Colwill and maybe moves to left back, whatever, then these are all things for him to think about. And I'm just kind of emphasizing that the challenges that exist when you're dropped in there. It's not like Deschamps, who's had his group for 8 to 10 years, and he adds now and then and sometimes goes back and whatever, right? But you think center back? I mean, the first two names you mentioned were Gay and Colwill.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they start on Friday. I mean, I'm more curious, to be fair, to see what system he plays with. If he plays with a back three, if he plays with a 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, and then who fits where. More than, I think this is very early to say, like, he doesn't have many centre backs, he doesn't have many strikers, he doesn't have many wingers, he can't do this, he can't do that. Let's see what he wants to do. He said to the players on Monday, the aim is to win the World Cup. Okay, he's there for that, but that he wants them to press high, he wants them to play with intensity. Which is something that Southgate maybe tried to do, never really managed to do it, apart from occasionally, I guess, in some games. But so I'd be very interesting to see how he approaches that. I like the fact that he didn't want Gibbs White initially, and then thought, actually, I could do with somebody like Gibbs White in this squad, which maybe is a bit of an indication of maybe playing in a 4-3-3 formation and having somebody like Gibbs White, or maybe even Bellingham, to play the third midfielder, but with a more free role, almost as a 10, but everything. So it'd be interesting to see. Yeah, so I think this is really good to see what he does against Albania in a game where England are going to win comfortably, regardless of who plays, really.
You should be very confident about England's chances against Albania.
Yeah, and Latvia even more the week after.
It is an interesting one because, 4-3-3, there's no obvious role for Cole Palmer, for example, right? Yeah. So these are some of the challenges. And I think it's quite telling that Cole Palmer, despite not being well, as we know, he hasn't actually pulled out of the squad. Or he may have by the time this comes out, but he made it a point of being in touch, of being there, hoping to recover for the second game. This is a really good sign. These are players who say, I want to make a good impression.
Yeah,
absolutely. On Tommy T.
And what Tuchel is very good. We've got a really nice word in French, which you can translate, I guess, which is calinotherapy, which it can translate as like cuddle therapy. And Tuchel is very good at that. He did it when he arrived in Paris. He did it again with his team. He called up every single player that he ended up calling in his squad before to say, hey, I will call you, have a chat, blah, blah, blah. He's very good at that. So the cuddle therapy is like, a bit like you said earlier about, being very close, that kind of man management side of his coaching is really good, I think. It's just not enough, obviously, to win the World Cup. So they will have to be. This is a good start, I guess. The mood in the squad, what they've been doing, the things that he highlighted, emphasized on, etc., etc. But then you will still have to do better. And the way I fear a little bit is, apart from Serbia, and that's a big maybe, they're going to smash every other team in their qualifiers group because they are just much better than Albania and Latvia, home and away. It doesn't matter. So again, they will be the world champions of qualifiers, like they've always been, really. And then what? As soon as they will have a friendly, it will be a big test. As soon as there will be something against a much bigger country, and if it doesn't go their way, we're going to look at it again. And that's what he might find difficult as well, is that those that are not test, playing Albania or Latvia, there's not much in it. So he will have to get things like working out pretty quickly, because then he will face much bigger team, and then that could become a bit as a shock if things are not working out for him.
Well, and we know how Southgate handled it. One of the criticisms of Southgate was that against the tougher opponents in the knockouts and stuff, they became very conservative and safety oriented, and they were pretty explicit. Oh, look, that's what Deschamps does, and he wins World Cup. All right, fine. Tuchel can be that. We've seen him win the Champions League, playing some very conservative football.
Yeah, pragmatic.
We've also seen him be very, very attacking in other situations. My concern would be, I think it's good to have a guy who's comfortable doing both and allowing him to decide based on the situation, this is what I need to do. So I think this actually bodes well. I think it's a good appointment.
Exciting. I think it's very exciting.
What he needs to avoid is not having his own private issues get involved in his day job, which is always a challenge here for England managers. And he's going to have to get used to not seeing the players every day.